All right. Well, let me call to order the annual meeting for the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor, 2025. And for those who don't know me, my name's Joe Zedleski, and I'll be asking for your cooperation and patience as we get through the agenda today. The first thing we need to do is to establish a quorum, and that is 20% of our membership of 121 people. So for those of you who are members, both here and online, I ask you to please indicate yourself here with a raised hand, online by putting a Y into the chat. And if there are 2 people present online, please put 2 Ys. Okay, perfect. So, they say showing up is half the battle. Here we are. Excellent. So 2 things. One is, in the loosest sense, I will hold us using Robert's rules, but I don't know Robert well, and so, again, patience there. The second thing, that when it comes time to discussion, I've noticed in meetings very often we end up losing people who are wanting to either be there for a topic or needing to leave for other commitments. So when we have discussion, we'll be limiting that to 2 minutes going through. Gail will be in charge of that, and I don't know what consequence there is if we fail. You should also have in your possession at this point in time an annual report that's in printed form and a budget document. Is there anyone who does not have either of those items who wishes one? In the back there, if we can. Okay, I'm gonna move us on here. Hopefully, in that period of time, we'll make sure that you either have a document or you can find a friend to share with. In the meantime, I'm going to invite opening words from Reverend Drew.
There we go. I'm going to read these words tonight because we had the vinyl chalice this morning. I'm going to take the lotus candle and put that on the pedestal to light it after I read these words. Titled, "To Bear Love into This World" by Rachel Hayes. We light our chalice this morning with our hearts tuned to the work of this congregation. We have inherited this institution from over 10 generations of people who believed in the power of human beings to bear love into the world. We carry this tradition for those who find comfort, inspiration, joy within its real and virtual spaces. We tend the spark of imagination and hope for the world to come.
All right, thank you. So the first order of business today is to consider the minutes from the 2024 annual meeting. Those are found on pages 5 and 6 of the annual report. And from that, I will invite from the floor a movement to approve those minutes. I have a motion to approve and a second behind there. So this is cycling through. Are there any discussion associated with it?
Quick correction. Laura Centrally and Linda Sisson.
Okay, so with standing editorial corrections as noted, and I'm going to say perhaps we should have a, actually I'm going to ask folks to use the microphone here just to make sure as we go through. Are there any other points of discussion associated with this, this motion on the floor? Yep.
Is the visioning screening the survey we did?
I'm going to have to look to Sue here.
Where do you see it?
Last paragraph on the first page, it says visioning screening results. I had not heard the term screening before.
So this was during the minutes, and it says Evan provided information.
It was a result of the survey. Right. Yeah, but it, maybe screening should be replaced with survey.
I think the screening is putting it on the screen. Screening is putting it on the screen.
So I'm going to just suggest a friendly edit there to change that parenthetically to survey. All right, we have a comment?
Well, not about that. Should I continue? Should I wait for my comment or just, on our list, we did not get our list of people on like we should have. Is there a way, is there going to be some type of an edit to our Justice Now committee?
What we're approving right now are the minutes from last year. Not to worry. We can talk about that in a second. Okay, Joe.
Okay, yep. Was there one more comment? On, again, consideration of the minutes from 2004. All right. Let's, I guess this is where I need to remember. I need to have a movement for a vote here, or what do we do? Right, yeah. So, yeah. So, all those in favor? And all those opposed? And are we counting abstentions? I suppose we should, right? Yeah. All right, so, all right. Made it through the first one here together. I appreciate that. The motion passes. We have confirmed the minutes from 2004. So our next motion, our next topic is to consider the staff and committee reports. Those are found on pages 11 through 33. And those we're going to consider in two sets for good reason coming up. For all the staff and committee reports accepting the nomination committee, is there a motion on the floor to consider them?
So moved.
And a second? And second with Lori. Is there any discussion associated with them?
The discussion is from Suzanne Kelly, whose committee report wasn't able to get in time for publication, and she was asking about how.
The report is in there for Justice Now, but the list is defunct on there. It's a longer list. It's a different list of people. It's an older list. So can I get that on there somehow, or does it matter?
If you want to provide an updated list then we can email it out and people could attach it to their copies of their annual report. No worries.
Okay, so this is to include the motion with a friendly amendment to have an errata in there for that committee. Is that correct? Is there any other discussion associated with that?
In the membership committee report, it mentions there were 9 new members, and Sue asked me if I would say their names. Allison Blaze, Jess and Seth Braun, Ben Childs, Marcy Gaglione, Bill Lagerstrom, Josh Saucier, Bill Steele, and Hannah Wonderly, a wonderful new group of 9 new members.
Okay, so the intent was actually to include that later on, but that's perfect. So right now, we have 2 friendly amendments to the motion. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote here. All in favor? And opposed? And abstention? All right, so the motion passes. Moving on to a subsection of this, looking for the nomination committee report. And this is going to include the nomination of Joan Rickert for that committee. Do I have a motion on the floor to accept that staff and committee report? And a second, please. There we go. Patty Woolley, second. Is there any discussion associated with this? Yes.
I'm new at this. I'm not sure if I say it now or if it's somewhere else on the agenda, but Danielle Diaria's name should have been bold and underlined because we'll be voting on her today for Hersey. And we just accidentally left out Kayla Worthington Strong as Stewardship Committee Chair. She has another year that she'll be doing that. Other than that, anything that's highlighted by being bold and underlined are the people that we'll be voting on today.
Perfect, and I'm going to be calling on you in a moment, I hope. Tom, did you get those 2 edits? So Danielle Daria there should have been bolded, okay? And the second one?
Yes, I have that. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion associated with the nominating committee report and appointment of Joan Rickert? In the back.
To approve the nominating committee report, does that include the,
All the
does
nominations?
that include all the slates and all the officers?
Negative, just for the nominating committee. This is sort of a nested process where we're going to consider the nominations coming up.
Well, just, I mean, that's page 10. That's the slate of
Yes,
proposed slate. So you're gonna approve it twice?
where we're not approving those that are nominated there. We're approving the report in the context of the nominating committee because we're going to invite then presumably Joan to introduce each of those. So simply still on the committee reports.
That's what it says on the top of page 10.
That is correct. So we are considering the report, but it still is going to go up for a vote for the congressional approval. Does that make sense?
There's there's not another report later in the book that I missed?
Negative. Are there any other thoughts or questions, comments? All right, then I put it to a vote, and I'll be a little better here, Tom. So we're going to ask for those who are in favor of supporting the nominating committee's report and the nomination of Joan Rickert to that committee. And are you getting a number then?
I am seeing unanimous, but I would like you to
Okay.
do a no and a abstain.
All right.
next.
All those opposed? All right. Anyone abstaining? All right. It passes, and we move on now. And Joan, now that you have earned your position to be put to work.
Come up here.
So I will introduce, but you're going to field questions here. Okay. So this is, again, as was noted, this is on page 10. This is in the report, and what's up for consideration is a vote to approve new council members. And I will invite a motion from the floor or from Joan to support the nomination of Catherine Foxton and Aaron Seavey.
I move to support them.
Looking for two. All right. John, you got a second? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. Is there any discussion? Jonah, feel free to add anything you wish.
Just real quick, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do, but everybody on here who's highlighted and bolded, thank you for agreeing to be nominated. A lot of people get phone calls from our committee, that's Chuck McKay, myself, and Dave Patterson, over the last few months, just to see if you're available and if you'd be interested. And we get some yeses and we get a lot of no's, and that's okay, we understand that. But thank you to the people who did say yes, and we're going to vote on them today. And I believe somebody else was going to thank all the people who are leaving, but
Well,
you will, okay.
I will.
So
But you
that's
can
it.
thank them now, too.
Yes, that would be Francis Gray is leaving council, Eric Strong is leaving treasurer, Mark McCullough is leaving Hersey, and thank you for all you've done.
So is there any other discussion, comments, or questions associated with the nomination of our two new council members? Waiting the requisite pause time. All right, then I will invite a vote here. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so. All right, all those opposed? And anybody not wanting to say either way? All right, the motion passes. We have two new council members. Keeping you here, Joan, we can hit that with applause. We have consideration of approval of officers for clerk and treasurer. Treasurer, Marcy Gaglione, and clerk, Tom Armstrong. And I would look for a motion from the floor to appoint them. All right, and I would say between those two, we have a second as well then. Perfect. I'm not sure who was first, but Evan, you can get first next one there, I guess.
It occurs to me that somebody might not know who Marcy is. Could you please stand, Marcy? Thank you. Okay.
Marcia Gallioni, I've known for about 15 to 20 years. She is the daughter of Sue Mejo and Donald Parsons. I have been working with her. She's a smart girl, even if she does have a Texas accent.
Any other comments, discussion, or questions about the slate for clerk and treasurer?
Is this done together? Because there's Tom. He better stand. Thank you, Tom.
But now you need to say something nice about him. Okay, all right. All right, in the absence of any other discussion then, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of our slate of clerk and treasurer? Looks like you're going to still have to do this, Tom. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Well, the motion passes. Thank you again. The next consideration is the approval of the Hersey Bequest trustees, and Daniel Daria is on the slate there. Or do I have that wrong?
General endowment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That would be Brenna.
Yes, yes. No, I'm just looking. Oh, I apologize. Wait. Oh, are you going through the order?
Go by this, go by this.
Oh, I have no idea what that is.
Well, that's why I'm standing here.
Oh. I'm sorry, I'm going by the report.
Okay.
You do it any way you want.
But I have the right person and the right job attached, right?
Yes.
All right, then let's stick with it. So I'm going to invite you, Joan, to make a motion to nominate Daniel Daria for the Hersey Bequest trustees.
I move to nominate Danielle Diaria for the Hersey trustee.
All right, do I have a second out there? Over in the back, a second, there we go. And then any discussion associated with that nomination? See, we're building up a lot of wins here. This is what I like. So,
Is Brenna here? Could you stand up? Okay.
okay, in the absence of any discussion, I call for a vote. All those in favor? And opposed? You're opposing? What? Nope. And anyone abstaining? All right, then we have a unanimous. So again, thank you. The next consideration is now for General Endowment Trustees, Brenna Guinan.
I'd like to nominate Brenna Guinan for the General Endowment trustee.
All right. Any comments, consideration? Oh, second. Oh, so quickly I forget the process. Thank you, Catherine. Now, are there any considerations, questions, or comments? Wait for it, wait for it. Okay, then let's call to a vote here. All those in favor? I see a pattern here. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, wonderful. So one more, right? Stewardship chair?
We do not need to vote.
We do not.
Kayla will be in her second year, so that'll be, next year we need to find someone new, not now.
Well then, thank you. Can we get?
I'm going to interrupt and say a quick thing.
Sure, sure.
Serving on the nominating committee is not as much fun as serving on council. As the council chair, I want to thank those of you who served on nominating. It's very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
All right. Here's the next topic here is to consider the 2025-26 budget. And to consider that, I'm going to ask, I believe Eric was about, right, to help guide us through some of the considerations there. And as I mentioned, you should all have a document to consider this, and hopefully you'll then end up with a motion.
Sounds good. Thank you all. Good to talk to you today. So I'm Eric Strong. I'm the treasurer for this fiscal year. Thank you very much, Marcy, for taking this over next year. Just to kind of start with, if you have not been a part of the Budget and Finance Committee or you've never attended one of these meetings, I just want to say that, thank you, Drew. Excellent. You probably cannot imagine how much time, energy, and stress goes into making sure that the church continues to operate financially well. So it could very much be a thankless job. I just want to, if you're on the part of the Budget and Finance Committee, if you can stand or just give a kind of wave, if everybody could give them a round of applause. And just a special thank you in particular to Rosemary and Marcy and Sue. I've been traveling a lot for work, and they have done an amazing job of keeping things going. So big round of applause for them in particular as well. Yes. I did my best to do a back of the envelope calculation, and I think about 500 to 1,000 hours are spent collectively worrying or working on the budget each year. So it's a massive effort. Okay, so with that being said, if you can maybe pull up the slides. I want to say, to start with, I hope all of you attended the budget hearing. That was really meant to be where you can ask questions. We can have some discussion as well. This is meant to be more of a high-level summary. I will say no one has reached out to me with any additional questions or concerns since that budget hearing, so I hope all of your concerns were alleviated. So how the budget we're voting on, how that differs from the one that we presented at the budget hearing. There's been a few adjustments, which you can see here in blue. The SE director was increased by a few hours to 20 hours for 41 weeks. The music director was also adjusted to 13.5 hours for 44 weeks. Those are a bit different, slightly different than was presented earlier. We've increased the minister's professional expenses. Those have been underpaid for a very long time, just to be aware, and this does not fully get us to the point where the recommended amount that we should be paying, but this moves us in the right direction. And then finally, we talked a bit about how building insurance is one of the main drivers of our budget increases. There's also an increase in the deductible that we'll need to pay moving forward. So having an escrow account where we can have at least some dedicated money to help for that deductible, huge reduction in our financial risk. So that was one of the last changes that we've made. The downside of all of this is that now our budget is no longer balanced. As long as I've been at UUSB, I don't think I've seen this, but it's my understanding that it has happened in the past. Just something to keep aware of, that this is a risky financial practice. We are using our surplus from this financial year, which we do have a surplus, in order to pay that budget overrun for next year. But long term, of course, that's not a good strategy. We will not suddenly have an extra $6,200 next year. So just something to keep in mind, that there is some risk associated with this. But the risk was being able to increase the C position a little bit. We took some risk for that. And the others that you can see on here. So that's why we're taking that risk, is because of those 4 items that you see here. If you can go to the next slide, please. Again, just a high-level summary of what we went over at the budget hearing. Here you can see our breakdown of how we make money for the church. You can see the biggest by far is pledge. We had a great pledge year. I believe it was an increase of about 7,000 to 8,000, so quite a big increase. But unfortunately, with our expenses, which if you can go to the next slide, our expenses were also quite drastically increased. So even our increase in pledge was not enough to make up the deficit caused by the expenses. Just pointing out a few things, which I also pointed out at the budget hearing. Building insurance was a big one, increasing by quite a bit. Other ones, we were able to raise salaries so that they were more equitable. Previously, in past years, the salaries were not balanced well. There were some positions that were being paid much more than others in terms of the recommended compensation. So one of our goals this year was to even that out so that all members of the staff are being compensated at equal rates. It's still not what the UUA recommends, but we're moving in the right direction, and it is now at least equitable. No one's being paid more than others at this point. So quite a big accomplishment for this year, something to be proud of. We did increase the UUA dues as well, as we've tried to do year after year. Again, still not where we'd like to be, not where it's recommended for us to be, but we're moving in the right direction. I believe there might be one more slide, or if not, I'll give some conclusions. So here's some conclusions. Again, deficit about $6,200, which we're paying for with the overrun or the surplus this year. Just some final thoughts. I have only been treasurer for the last year. It's been hugely stressful. It's been quite a lot of work. So again, just a huge thank you to the Budget and Finance Committee. But from what I've seen, I just have to point out, we're already in financial hard times. We're going to continue to be in financial hard times for the next few years. We're not presenting a balanced budget. We have to come up with ways to raise more money. It's as simple as that. Our pledge needs to increase if at all possible, and we need to come up with additional fundraisers. If we don't, then we're going to have to keep continually cutting back things that are core to the mission of the church. So my hope is that as we go into the next year, we can increase some of our revenue, and that won't need to happen, but just you need to be aware that we're in a dire financial situation right now. So I appreciate all of what you are contributing, and if you can, consider contributing more. So again, thank all of you. It's been a hard year, but it's been a good year, and thank you very much to Budget and Finance again for all you've done.
Eric, can I invite you to put forward a motion?
So I'll put forward a motion to approve this budget.
Do we have a second? I missed. Who was that? Oh, there you go. All right. And I invite any discussion, questions, or comments, and don't go far in case there's questions. What's that?
I'm gonna have to run it back.
Was there another mic or no?
One of the big increases in the budget was the building insurance, and that is beyond our control. I just want to make a point that if you're watching the news and you see climate change and it's an abstract kind of, it's painted as a scientific, full of uncertainties, blah, 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 it makes you think, well, it's just hard, it's not tangible. This is directly from climate change, and it's not going to stop. And so when you're voting, just think about that when you're voting for politicians, what they're going to do about climate change.
100%.
I have a quick question while I'm running over there. Is the surplus that we had this year equivalent to the 6,200, or is there more of a surplus? And where did that come from?
We're not sure yet because the financial year hasn't closed, but we think it'll be approximately the same. Yes, that's our best guess. Where did it come from? It was from the C director position not being filled. That was our highest paid position by far, and that gave us a bit of surplus to work with this year.
I have a question that's a continuation, basically. What is the plan, if there is one, to deal with other churches who are also having to pay these sorts of increases in fees?
Yeah, good question. And from what we've heard, some of us have contacted other churches to hear how they're coping with it. Sounds like this is widespread. Everyone's dealing with it. There's a lot of, and I think Sue actually has a great answer to this. I'll just let you, Sue's our expert here. So.
if you were to look at other churches in the Bangor area, and that's all I can speak for, with the exception of the evangelical churches, which are growing, but, you know, they're paying to get into heaven, we're not. But a high number of churches have ministers that have either had to go to part-time, or in the case of, for instance, the Methodist Church on Essex Street, near where I live, their minister serves 2 congregations. He goes out to Corinth and does a service, and then he comes into Bangor and does a service. So that is a big part of what's happening. What we had to do this year, the Committee of Shared Ministry wanted Drew's salary increase to $67,000. If you look in the budget, you'll see that didn't happen. What we have told Reverend Drew is, because he's exempt, he can work as many hours as he technically has to work. We have told him, try your hardest to keep it at 40. What he has been doing is 50 to 60 hours a week. That is not sustainable. That will kill him. And we do not want to go to a part-time minister. So does that answer your question? Thank you. I appreciate that. You can come and ask the same question next year.
Are there any other thoughts, questions, or comments? Hearing none, then, I will call for a vote here. All those in favor of the budget as presented, please raise your hand. And any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, so the budget passes. Thank you. I'm going to invite Reverend Drew forward for a minute, just a little 7th inning stretch here.
I promised you a nice little surprise during the service this morning, and what you didn't know is, in approving this budget, you have also hired a new director of spiritual exploration. I talked with Camden. The council made hiring him contingent on the approval of the budget, and he has already said, hell yeah. So, so good news, good news.
Thank you. So the next topic for conversation is one that I'm going to just spend a moment to make sure we frame correctly. If you reach back into your memory, you'll remember that we considered as a community approval of the 8th principle, and this was in advance of the General Assembly that was going to be taking place. So this was supported by the community, but in order to continue and include it as a bylaw, we need to consider it again as a specific amendment to the bylaws of the UUSB. And just to go through and look at what we have for Article 17 for amendments, bylaws may be amended by a vote of at least 2/3 of members present and voting at any legal meeting of the society, so on and so forth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through what was put forward as a resolution by the UUSB to include the 8th principle, and then at the very end include the text that is associated with the proposed change to the bylaws. And so the 8th principle bylaws amendment, resolution of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor to amend the bylaws to include the 8th principle. Whereas during the 2022 and 2023, the UUSB community gathered multiple times to learn about and discuss the possibility of adding in an additional principle to the current 7. And whereas Reverend Andrew Muller regularly spoke on the underpinnings of the 8th principle, both in sermons and via a multi-month-long spiritual enrichment group study of racism, white privilege, in what it means to become anti-racist, UUSB was then honored to welcome Reverend Sarah Heyman in 2023 to hear her sermon speaking directly to the core of the eighth principle. And whereas on March 19, 2023, a special congregational meeting was held to discuss the eighth principle. Both support and concerns about UUSB adopting it were expressed, and whereas on May 21, at the UUSB annual meeting, the eighth principle was adopted by a vote of the membership of the congregation, and whereas the eighth principle reads, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor hereby direct the UUSB Council to amend the bylaws of the Society to include the eighth principle among the principles of the Society by adding a new paragraph following paragraph D in Article 2, which I'm sure everyone's aware of, as follows: to work to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. So with that, what I'm going to do is invite Zach to handle any hard questions or comments that are associated with that. But first, I will invite a motion from the floor to adopt that text as a bylaw. So moved and seconded. It's that kind of cooperation that I really admire in this community. There any thoughts, questions, or comments? Well,
on the first page of this, if you want to go back to the first page, Atticus, I'm suggesting that in the fourth paragraph, you add the year of the annual meeting that we approved, adopted the eighth principle. It's not there, so because things happened in 23 and now we're in 25, it's not clear if that was May 21st, 2023 or 2024. So that, I think we should add a year there. And in the second paragraph, what it talks about via a multi-month-long spiritual enrichment group, the SURE group was formed during that time, and we have been doing that ever since, and I don't know if that wants to be indicated or not, but I just want people to be aware, so.
Zach, if you want to come up here, you can maybe comment, or no, you'll wait for it to come around.
While I support this motion wholeheartedly, I think it's imperative that we live by it and start inviting people of other backgrounds and races and creeds to this location to make sure that that's put forth, because a lot of people here are just used to everyone being around on the same page, and they're not used to people from out of state coming in. And I think that it's really important to bring them in and allow them to tell their own story and stop treating them as if we're their specific protectors and more like they're coming to us for our help.
Thank you.
I may not have heard it, but I think that forget it, I'm tangled, concerns be added to that. And also, I would like to make a motion that any such additions that have been mentioned be added and others as needed.
Could you repeat that? Be added?
As needed.
So I want to make sure that we're clear where we're looking.
Should I take that out?
No, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page as what we're considering. This is the last sentences to include it as a bylaw. So the other pieces, while I think important to be factual and such as Lori pointed out, it's the last sentences that we're going to be
Well,
voting
I
on
also,
whether
the other comments and recommendations that have been made, which were perfectly obvious, I mean, to me, but should those be two motions?
Well, right now, we're going to consider the motion before us. There'll be another opportunity to consider other motions if we wish to in the meeting. Are you considering one then?
I thought those came before, okay, I'm sorry.
No, this is all good.
Really, you want- All right, I amend that to the motion,
All right.
motion.
Yes.
So-
Okay, so specifically, so far we have a change to the text as it stands.
Can you move that forward, Atticus, please? No, back right there. So I think that the UUA, in their process of deciding on the wording of the eighth principle, added the word other oppressions to include all other things that might be oppressed in minorities, LGBTQ society, all of the things that might be oppressed. And they chose to use the word racism because if you look at racism as a more global thought process, it includes almost everything that has to do with oppression. So I think that that's the reason the UUA chose that wording. And what I believe we're doing as a UU society is adopting the wording that the UUA used for the eighth principle. Does that clarify, Lee?
I believe that it needs to be a little bit more clear. I understand it, but I think it's convoluted reasoning, like some earlier versions of things we've seen that went from a 6 or so to 25 lines. All right.
So Zach, can you help with this? And I'm just going to repeat the piece that's being considered to be added to the bylaw.
I haven't done this in a long time.
So the text that we're considering is to work to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. The other text is a build-up to that. That's what we're considering here, is just that short section.
For 2 or 4 words.
I think she wants the addition of LGBTQ, is that correct?
Cultural differences.
And cultural differences. We'll give us back.
Sure. So I think, Chair, we're at a moderator, we're at a moment of parliamentary procedure where we have a motion and a second to approve the bylaw language. We have a motion to amend this motion, and to proceed with this motion to amend, I think we would need a second for the motion to amend.
Okay, thank you for that, yeah. I guess, could I get a specific amendment, and it's, if I capture it right, is to include the term LGBTQ and cultural differences. So,
LGBTQ, cultural differences, and other oppressions. So we're adding those 4 words
okay.
To make it very clear. Reverend Drew has a comment.
Yeah, just as a point of information, the eighth principle is a principle that has been proposed by people of color in our denomination not by the UUA. The UUA has never adopted the eighth principle, except they incorporated it into our new set of values. So they're not using but they did incorporate that into our values of justice and equity. But I just wanted to make sure that there's some clarity about that. And that's another reason why the wording is very specific. I wasn't here when the congregation passed that because I was on sabbatical, but my understanding was that what the congregation voted on was very specifically that wording that was proposed by people of color in our denomination. So I just want people to know that.
As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, when I voted for the eighth principle, when we voted last year on the eighth principle, it was clearly on Black issues and Black racism. I'm not saying that LGBTQ people don't deserve protection, but we're not the only ones that deserve protection. And that's why you've got that other oppressions. We've got homeless people. We've got hungry people. I can't think about making an entire list of all of the oppressions. So I would ask you all, coming from an LGBTQ person, please don't change this amendment. This was designed to serve the Black community and the importance of the Black community. And that's why I would oppose any kind of an amendment to that. I want that to pass. If we want to talk about other bylaw changes, we got all next year. We got the rest of our lives to make changes.
Okay, so I'm going to
She just withdrew the amendment. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it.
I don't think any of us are all that familiar with Robert's rules anymore, but I do believe that when there's going to be an amendment to our
motion.
No, not the motion, change to the bylaws, that we discuss it at one annual meeting and through the church year, but we don't vote on it till the next year, so that we have time to really discuss all the ramifications. And that's why when we talked about this Article 8, eighth principle, we didn't vote to add it. We couldn't vote to add it right then and there to the bylaws. We had to let it percolate.
So to my knowledge, just to address that, the amendments, it says bylaws may be amended by a vote of 2/3 of those members present and voting for at any legal meeting of the said society called for that purpose, among others, the notice of which will be I don't believe what you mentioned. I couldn't find that in there. And Sue, I want to get us back on track here, but working backwards.
I've reviewed the minutes. This was brought up as a possibility at the 23 meeting. It was voted to accept this wording of the eighth principle at last year's meeting.
Okay.
We had not introduced it as a written amendment to the bylaws, which is what we're proposing here today.
Okay, before we go over to Glenn, because he's had his hand up for a while, Article 18 of our bylaws says effective date. These bylaws become effective upon the date of approval by the society at a meeting of the society.
My comment is basically just supporting what Sue said and what Catherine said, that I would like to vote on this amendment as it stands. The other oppressions language I'm very comfortable with. If you start listing every possible form of oppression, it becomes a long legalistic list. I like this language. I suggest we vote on this.
Okay, and so Zach had mentioned, I've dropped the ball here a little bit in terms of getting things straightforward. There was a motion to amend that was put forward. You've got that in the record. Was there a second for that amendment?
No, she withdrew it.
It was withdrawn. All right.
So we're on, and
Well,
somebody
it's been
called,
withdrawn.
somebody called the question, so take the vote.
You did indeed. So, with that, could we please vote on the change to the bylaws? Is going to be before us to work to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. All those in favor? All right, giving it a pause, and all those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion has passed. Okay, and thanks for the kick, Zach. So other business as required, wanted to mention, as Linda did, again, the roster of new members there, so really something to appreciate. And as was mentioned as well, we had a number of people who left positions of service. Yes, thank you. Left positions of service, Mark McCullough, Francis Gray, and Eric Strong, and anyone else who has moved on from a position of service, I just want to take a moment and appreciate them for their time here. Two things just as matters of information that I wanted to pass along. As you may or may not know, there's a solar project that is underway that is moving forward. And I do want to recognize Mark McCullough for his leadership and his continued role in seeing that through. And that's appreciation for the council to consider that at a difficult time too. There's another update as well that I'm going to invite Reverend Drew to speak of ever so briefly here, just that we are looking at getting a new sound system here. This is coordinated by Ben Speed, Reverend Drew, in coordination with an anonymous donor. Did you want to say anything beyond that?
Just a quick update. If you look back in the corner there, you'll see a bunch of boxes, and that is our new sound system that is, we're waiting to be able to install that. I think this week they're going to be pulling cables. Basically, they're going to be speakers that are going to be up on the ceiling, and they have to pull cables all the way across, all the way down to the soundboard. Right now, the guesstimate is probably mid to late June when the system will be up and running. And then I've also made a donation from my dad and my uncle's trust to cover adding the hearing assist system, which will be a lot more robust. There'll be some separate units, but people will also be able to use their cell phones to be able to access the service in a more real-time kind of feed, much higher quality, and you can do all kinds of wonderful things with that. So it's coming together. It will be, we'll be also doing a training for AVS techs, so if anybody is wanting to learn how to do the audiovisual system technology, we'll have to do some training on that, and we'll also offer some workshops before worship services to help people figure out how to download apps and get plugged into the system and all that kind of stuff. But it's getting really close. So,
excellent, thank you. So the next item, so don't let go of that mic for a moment, is any new business. So this is an invitation for anyone who has any new business that is not in the warrant to consider at this point.
I don't know if it's new business, but just hearing about the sound system and our financial situation, just something to think about, nothing to vote on today for sure, but maybe this will be one of the better performance spaces in Bangor. It could help our rental income if that's something we want to go for.
All right. Thanks, Drew.
I just want to say it's a great idea. We just need to make sure we check who we take money from.
Any other new business? Hearing none, Drew, I'm going to pass it back to you for the rites of passage.
So this morning we recognized 4 of our young people who are graduating and have bridged into young adulthood. Ivy Demore McClellan, Ella Dioria, Jordan Seavey, and Liliana Eubanks. We also want to remember beloved members of our congregation who have passed over the last year. And so we remember Deborah Chapman and Carrie Lynn O'Brien. So take a moment of silence just to pause. Okay. Now I want to take a moment to as we're kind of wrapping things up, recognize that it has been a year. It has been quite a year in the life of our congregation. There's been a lot of transition, new staff member coming in, a staff member leaving. We've had some really deep conversations, heart-to-heart conversations about needlepoint expansion, and a lot of back and forth on the budget trying to make this all work. And so I want to take a moment to recognize the leaders in our congregation. We have gone through quite a few, to use a sailing analogy, we've gone through quite a few storms, and we're still very much intact, we're still afloat, and we're still thriving. And so I want to start with recognizing Sue McKay. In Jewish communities, they have a term that they use called a mensch, which is somebody who is just a stalwart member. And I don't know, you're a mensch. You just have that mensch energy. So thank you. Thank you, Sue. I want to recognize the other officers in our congregation. So treasurer, secretary. Tom's writing this all down, so he's not going to stand up. And then all the other elected positions, especially Kayla for stewardship. Collector. Vice Chair, Zach Falcon. Yeah. We have who am I leaving at? Collector. Kate Dutra, right? If you are here and you are a committee chair, I want you to stand up right now and be recognized. If you have been involved in some of our educational or ongoing kind of programming, so SURE, which continues to thrive, which I talk about transformation, about what a congregation is all about. SURE is continuing to be and doing a great job. Our Justice Now team continues to do great work. Is Bill still here? Bill and I did a workshop together on aging as a spiritual practice, and he did an awful lot of work with that, so grateful for that, and Linda helped facilitate the communications on that. I also want anybody who has taught in an SE program, anybody who has served on a committee, all you stand up, everybody who's been a part of that. If you have been helpful or been part of one of our hospitality teams, I want you to rise. If you sing in our choir, I want you to rise. If you have come to services, been involved with our children, have picked up a piece of trash outside or raked leaves or anything, I want you to rise and stay rised. Stay standing up. We are a community that believes in shared leadership. And when you look at the size of our congregation and what we do, we are, I hate to use the violent term of punching, but we're living beyond our capacity in some ways of being able to be a meaningful spiritual community, and a spiritual community that is pulling more than its weight in the world. And so that makes us a special place, a space of transformation, a place of shared leadership, and a place that will continue to thrive and grow even when we're dealing with some challenges. We will get there, and we will get there together. So with that, I'm going to ask you all to take a moment and join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Great universal Spirit, interconnected web of which you're a part, we have continued today to live into the values of the founders of our congregations. Literally, when I looked it up, 10 generations of Universalists and Unitarian Universalists here in Bangor who continue to live into our values of love, hope, connection, equality, justice, and equity. May we continue to learn from the inspiration of all of our leaders, to continue to do the work to support each other even when things get a little dicey, because we know that part of the way that we grow, part of the way that we continue to make a difference and to live into our values is by doing it together. We need that support. We can't do this alone. Blessed be. Amen. With all the gratitude that we can muster, let us say, yay. Oh, you can muster more than that. Yay!
Well, the last thing I get to do is invite a move to adjourn. So there we go. All right. We're not going to vote on it. We'll go with the yays. Thank you, guys.